What's up, YouTube? Life with a Pepperoni here. And on the last episode, you guys seen I made some room in the front for the front wheels. And this episode, we're going to be narrowing the rear end to fit the rear wheels. As you guys seen, they're a bit too wide. Let's just get this on here quickly. They stick out just a bit too much. I got these flares here that you guys seen, and it's a bit too wide. So I was talking to a few guys, like I've said in, I believe the last one, or like the one that this will be, JSP Fabs said there's about 1.5 inches on the splines, and I'm able to narrow it 3/4 of an inch on each side without having to respline the axles, because it costs money, but I have to like send them out. That's another 3 weeks or so, bring them back, and then I can just get away with this, and then I can play with it from there. So hope you guys enjoy. Hope you guys learn some stuff. Hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and hope you guys are enjoying this stuff. So let's get at it. That rear fitment's a bit too spicy, but the front works. I like that. I really like that. That looks good. That is spicy. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to narrow the rear end because I think that would be best bet. And then the front, I can just use these flares. If I ever break these flares, it's $140 to get more. So I'm just going to go that route. I probably will make metal flares after that, but right now I just want to drive the car. So if I narrow the rear axle, it's not that hard. It's just very time consuming. So I'm going to do that. It'll probably take like 5-6 hours to do. And then the rear end will be done and all this stuff will be done. And yeah, I might be able to pull the rear end without even having to bleed the brakes too, which would be super cool. But I guess, yeah, now I'm going to pull the axle. Damn it. So having a look under here, first things first, I'm going to have to take off the panhard bar, and then my links that go up to my cantilever suspension, and then the four links, and then I'll have to pull off the exhaust. I made the exhaust quite easy to pull off, though. There's like a mount there, a mount there, a mount there, and then you can see that mount over there. And then I think I can pull the calipers off and kind of take off these mounts here. And then I can just hang them off there, and then I don't have to re-bleed all the brakes, even though I have to. It's just one less thing to get all the fluid back into here. And then I think the rear end's pretty much ready to come out. I tried to make it as serviceable as possible, but we all know how that goes. So yeah, I'm going to drain the fluid first, so I'll just take that off. I think that's like a 21 mil. Let that drain for a bit, and then I will get started on pulling off all these bolts and everything. Would you look at that? It just happens to be the same size as my links. So I'm just going to pull this off. Here. I have no idea what condition the fluid is in, so it's probably a good thing that I just check and see. Ooh, yucky. So the story behind this rear diff is my friend Dustin from Serial 9. Ooh, there's some good metal chunks in there. I guess I'll see the limited slip and kind of see how well it is. So he had this diff in his 82 or 83 Corolla, and he was drifting down in the States at Evergreen Speedway and hit a pole. Oh. Hit a pole at the track and wrapped the car around a pole. I'll show some pictures because it's quite funny. And he drove it all the way back to Vancouver from the States like that, and dude's a legend. And then he parted out the car afterwards, but the rear end was still fine because he cut it out he didn't cut it. He hit the wall in the middle of the door, so it was literally a V as he was driving, but the car He said it drove all right, but it's just once you see the picture, you'll understand. And yeah, so he parted out the car years later, and I got the disc. So what I'm gonna do first is pull off the caliper, then hang it from here, and then I'll go on the other side because I'll know what tools I need. I'll pull off that caliper, and then we will get to the exhaust, I think. That's probably best. It says those are 14. Little screw for the caliper. Now this can come off. Way easier. So now I'm just pulling off the drum, and then I'm going to use the access holes here to actually take out the bolts that hold the axle in place. So it's just a retainer with 4 bolts, and then the axle comes out like you see. But yeah, that's like a true, like, probably 5/8 of an inch that it's not engaging. So this side is pretty much the same thing, but the opposite. So it's just mirrored, so. So now I've got the axles out. I'm gonna pull the third member out just so then it's lighter for me to carry, and then I'll kind of bring it out, kind of inspect that, and just see if it's worn out or if the limited slip needs a rebuild or whatnot. So that's just like, I think 14 bolts around the outside, and then just a little pry bar, and it pries out. Ooh, drive shaft. So yeah, here. So we just gotta undo all those and undo the drive shaft here. It's 4 bolts. And while I'm under here, I'll undo that mount for the exhaust and this mount here, and then I'll just undo this V-band clamp, which it's already loose because I should have done a once over, and just pull that off, and then the rear end's gonna drop more. So I'm gonna So I'm struggling pretty hard on this thing, so I just grabbed my chisel and I grinded a point onto it, and I'm gonna see if that works. Or else I don't know. It's just not coming up. Really annoying. So I think that's all the way good. I just put a nut up here just to retain it. Just because I didn't want the whole... Oh, that was very unpleasant. My glasses are very foggy, and it looks foggy under here too. Probably is. It's very warm. Let's clean the lens. No, it's just foggy. Oh well. Now I'm gonna pull the rest of the bolts out. tuner. We need to undo that. Since when did the Corolla have long travel? And there we have it. The diff out of the Corolla. That was not fun. So here's a Corolla axle all out of the car. Look at all that stuff. Got a bunch of linkadoos and some linkage lays and a rear end that we're gonna cut apart right now. So gonna go into the big shop and we're gonna do some snipping, some cutting off the mounts. I gotta align some stuff, mark some stuff out, and let's narrow this thing. So here it is. Here's the Corolla rear end. So this is a, I guess, 78 to 82, 83 Toyota Celica Supra rear end. They're a really ugly car, but the diff is really good. So a lot of them came with a limited slip transmission, and I mean differential, not transmission, and they're really strong. You can use the same parts out of a Toyota pickup or an IS300 or any Toyota 7.5 and some 8-inch I think fits in here, but 7.5-inch rear diff. Like I think same as JZX100 and stuff too. So these links have been welded on. Dustin from Serial 9 kind of like redesigned them with some lift. So they correct a bunch of geometry. As you can see, there's a lot more adjustment from factory. So I was looking at it, and I think the only place I'm able to narrow it and make it shorter is right here. Right in this spot here on each side. You can kind of see it's open. It's all the same diameter. And that's about it. I can't really do it here like I originally planned. Just because there's not 3/4 of an inch there. Like I'm wondering if I should just take this off, this little weld here, and cut some of this off. And then this whole piece, I only need 3/4 of an inch. So it's not that much, but I don't know, where's the stuff I need? Got it. So we need about that much right there. See the 3/4? You can't really, it's not zooming. So I don't know if I should take a chance and like make this portion smaller, or if I should just take it out of here because it's got the extra reinforcement. I'm gonna take a really good look at it again and kind of see, but either or, we have two options and one of them has to get done. So let's get at it. So after looking at it for a bit, I think I'm gonna try and cut the ends. I just really like when you can cut the ends off and then this piece is kind of press fit in here with a tube. So I think I'm better off just like grinding a bit down here just to compensate on the meat here, because you can kind of see here it goes smaller to fit this. So worst case, I have to weld it back on if it's not kind of what I want. But I think overall that's the best option rather than cutting in the middle. I really don't like cutting in the middle of axles. Sometimes it's your only option, but I think given it's so little, I should be able to get away with this. So I'm just gonna cut there and kind of see. So what I'm gonna do is just take a grinder on a cutoff wheel, and I'm just gonna go along this weld seam right here. And then this whole unit should pop off, and then I'm gonna check the angle of this. So I'm just gonna open up my phone. Right now, I have a Level app. It's called Level. And I'm just gonna put this across there. And so we know when this is sitting, this is at 14 degrees. So I'm just gonna remember that and look back at the video probably, because I'm gonna forget. And then this one should be the same. So when these are sitting flat on the table, These are at a 14-degree angle. So yeah, I'm gonna start cutting. For this, you really have to walk on it, like walk up to it and just do it slowly, as if you cut too deep, you're gonna go into the housing, and that's also no good. So you kind of got to go slow and steady and kind of just see where it cracks, like start hitting this off and go from there. It's picky, not picky. I don't know. It's slow. So I'm pretty much cut all the way through now. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure from this edge here, once it's cleaned off, this edge to here, and that's 21. And now this edge over here, well, this one's 20, to the outside is, let's go to the inside. 20 and 7/8. I think this one with a clean, with no gasket here, will also be 21 and 7/8. Oh, there we go. So there we go. Yeah, so 21 and 7/8. So what I'm gonna do now is I'll have to make sure this one here is 21 and 1/8. So that'll be our 3/4 of an inch. So I don't know how I'm gonna get that exactly, but we're gonna figure it out. So there's a seal in there that I'll pop out, and then maybe this can just go on more. Yeah, there's a lot of meat in there, so I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take this down. I'm gonna put this in the lathe, I think. Take this down a bit, take that seal out carefully, and maybe I'll order a new seal. I don't know. But then I'm gonna grind all this down, and then I'm gonna get this to 20 and 1/8 from 20 and 7/8. That should be 3/4 of an inch. So what I'm going to use here is my Milwaukee band file. These things are the best. I love these things with everything I have. So I'm just going to go around here, try to stay away from this flange. Honestly, I'm going to put a piece of masking tape on there. So if I hit it, I hit the tape, and I'm going to start grinding away.
So here I'm just cleaning the end, and I'm just getting it ready for masking tape. Ends up being the masking tape didn't really work the best, as I kept on hitting it. It just wasn't the right operation. Like, it wasn't the right thing to do. So right now I'm just going around it and taking the welds down as much as I can, because they were pretty thick to begin with. And then later on I'll go with the band file and kind of just smooth it out with the edge, just because you can go around a round surface with it. So here I'm just kind of checking it and seeing how far I can bring it in, and kind of go from there. Just punching out the seal. It's just a little axle seal, and here we go. So now I'm just going along the edge and just kind of making sure that all the high spots are cleared up. And now I'm using the part that you can just go on a round surface, just cleaning that up, and now I'm just, there's a couple spots that I missed, so I'm just getting the highs down to the same level as the outer portion where the hub's gonna slip over. And now I'm gonna, next up is putting the hub back on and kind of just seeing how much meat I can take off of that to get our 3/4 of an inch. And here I'm just following it around just to make sure everything's on the same plane and level, so then when I put the hub on, it just goes as far as it can. As you can see here, it's a pretty tight fit. I gotta hammer them on, so yeah, I'm just cleaning this axle up a bit more and going deeper and deeper and just test fitting. This one side took me quite a while. Like, I was just going very slow and didn't really have a whole idea of what I was going to do and trying to configure everything as I was going. So it was just like a lot of little steps, a lot of putting it on, taking it off, grinding a bit further, taking some off of the hub. I didn't show it here because I forgot to film, but like I would lathe the hub down about ½ inch and then did another ½ inch or so on the actual axle tube, and that's kind of where we got our 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch. I think it were about 11/16 if we want to be very technical, but yeah, it was just like a lot of trial and error and a lot of on and off, where the other side, as you guys will see like in a bit, it's just that's kind of, it went a lot quicker. So right here I'm just cutting the end of the tube off, and at the end of the video you'll see that I screwed up and I didn't cut it enough, and I had to actually grind the tubes from the inside out, and that's kind of, it was a big boo-boo, but you live and learn. Measure twice, cut once.
Just say a prayer for my city. Just say a prayer for my city. Believe in God to kneel down with me. Say a prayer for my city. Just say a prayer for my city. Say a prayer for my city. My granny house is gone. My sister house is gone. We done lost it all.
So after cutting this down and everything and seeing and measuring and seeing what I have to play with, I got a good 5/8 of an inch. So I didn't get the full 3/4. I don't know if this will fully be worth it, but it's better than nothing. I think with that, I can definitely play with it on the car and hopefully skedaddle that. Like, I'm running a 195 in the rear right now, and I'm gonna be running a 185, so it'll be a bit more stretch. I might have to make some actual flares and stuff, but I don't wanna go a bit more. I kinda wanna keep, so in here, you can kinda see there's a lip there, right? There. And I kind of don't want to make it any smaller just because that keeps it square on the axle here. And I want it to just stay square. Like, I have the bar that goes through and everything, but I think this is safest bet. And when I was measuring my axles, 5/8 was kind of the realistic size as well. So I'm gonna cut it at 5/8. So I'm gonna do the other one now. I didn't film the lathing. Now that I have the measurements and stuff, I'll just do some lathe action and kind of go from there. So, I mean, it's better than nothing. It's definitely gonna make a difference, but it's not. I need even more than that. So it is what it is, and we're gonna play with it as it is. I feel way safer doing it this way. So yeah. Let's get the rest of it done. And then I'll get both sides done, and then I'll tack it and weld it, so. So you can kind of see here when you hit it with a hammer, like once you get pretty close, it just cracks, the welds crack. And then you can kind of just grind a bit more where it needs it or just hit it off. So that's a little tip.
So the second time around, I learned that if I just take all the big portion of the welds off with a grinder, then I can go around with a band file later, and it quickened up the process so much. I could just take the big chunks off, all the super thick portion of it, and then bada beam, bada boom, like, we're pretty much done. It would, like, this side took less than half the time that now that I had an idea of what to do and everything. So that made it way easier and got most like the grunt work per se of the grinding over and done with. So pretty happy with that.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to put this in this side, then we'll square off this side here, and then we have to take about an 1/8 inch to 3/16 off of here to get this measurement here to 2 5/8. So I'm just going to put this in here now. Make sure it's tight.
So here I'm just going pretty slow as all the carbides we have are just, they're dull. We have to get new ones and we just haven't yet. So I'm just slowly getting my way across and just taking the material off that it needs to be and getting it to size, and then it'll be ready to go back on.
So got this all laid. You can kind of see there, I put a little bevel on the inside, got the outside so I can lay a nice bead of weld. And now I'm just gonna kind of go on the axle, put this on, try to match the other one as best as I can. And now I'll just creep up to it, I guess you can say. Just kind of grind a little bit, see this, and then once I get both the same, then I'll just weld her up and we're golden. So you can kind of see here, you can kind of see a bit of shininess. So that shininess is actually where this on the inside here is hitting. So the fact that it's hitting it, that means that's where it's going to be a high spot and we have to actually grind that spot down. So that's what I'm doing here with this. I'm just taking a little bit off of here and then I'm going to do that little bit by little bit until it fits on perfectly. So. So here we have it. It's pretty much good now. The last bit there that I was grinding, that was about a 30-second or, well, it was like between a 16th and a 32nd. So I'm gonna go here. Where's the level? So we're gonna get this back at 14. This will be minus 14. There we go. Can't really see it, but She's at 14 now. Oh, 13. There we go, 14. So now that that's at 14 degrees, I'm gonna smack it back in there, and then we're gonna be ready to weld. So what I have here is this little bar I've made for a Toyota axle specifically. I don't know if it makes a big difference in my case because it does have a little bit of play. It doesn't fit perfectly. So when I shorten 8.8s and 9 inches, I have a solid bar that goes through the center section, and you put this 1.5-inch bar through side to side. So it'd go through here. It would get connected in here. I'd have 2 more pieces like right here and here that go to the carrier bearings. And then I would have another one here, and that kind of keeps it straight. But in this axle here, this hole is too small, and I didn't have a solid piece of 1 inch. So I just kind of used this 1.25 inch stainless with some tape wrapped around it to this 1.5 inch DOM. And then this one's kind of heat pressed in there so it's perfectly square. And I think it's more for like my mental state. There's too much movement in it, but it keeps it straight across. Like the way these are done, they're like a really tight fit, so they kind of have to be squares, but this is just kind of explaining like what I'm doing here. So you can kind of see like it's pretty tight in there. I can just barely spin it. And I mean, kind of is what it is. Like it's going to be what it is. It's going to be as best as I can get it. So given I didn't have a tube, and yeah. It's just how she goes sometimes. It's going to be square enough. We'll be good. We'll see how many wheel bearings I have to change this season. That's about the difference it's going to make, so. So what I'm gonna do when I start welding it, I'm gonna throw a couple tacks. I'll throw a couple tacks across from each other. Just make sure that this is square still. And then I'll probably do both sides tacking them just to keep them square. And then I'll do a root pass, just like a single pass with a little bit of TIG rod. Doesn't really matter if it looks the nicest or whatever. It's just to get the heat in there to get it penetration. And then I'll go over it a second time, and that's when I'll do like the second pass or the nice pass. And I'll just take my time, and I'll just go slowly, and I'll just dip, and or dab, I guess, and I'll just make it really nice. And that's like the final pass. So you know you have penetration, and then you add the filler material extra just to make sure the weld's super strong. Like it's fitted on there, so this just kind of like keeps it on, but I don't know, I tend to. kind of see here how like these welds over here are pretty big and these ones are small. So that's gonna be the root pass. And then that's gonna be like the cap of the big boy. So I'm just gonna do the rest of this now. Doing a little spray paint makeover. Make it look all fresh. So got the rear end back in, tried to put the axles in for test fitting, and I screwed up. I screwed up real good. Axle. I did not grind / cut the inner part of the axle enough. And now I have nowhere to put my oil seal. So I'm going in there just quickly with this, and I'm just grinding out the inside. And I have to grind like, I think 1/4 inch on one side and 1/8 inch on the other, but everyone screws up. So I know I pulled this diff apart, like all in the car, but I'm going to put it back in together just because it makes way more sense. I can make sure everything's aligned. I can make sure this is sealed. I can RTV this on a flat surface and then make sure all my axles and everything are tight. It's a bit heavier per se, but it'll be worth it, I feel. Just having put diffs in before, like these center sections are just easier to install while they're flat. So I'm going to do that. As you can see the shiny part in there. It's all ground down. You can see how much room there is now. Before there was like maybe 1/4 inch from there to there, and the seal's way bigger than that. So yeah, lesson learned. Measure twice, cut once. I don't know, they were cheap at the local parts store, so I just grabbed one. You just put new blades in it, just slip in like that. So it's one of my more useful tools. Okay, so for a diff, I don't know if it's common knowledge or not, but there's a couple ways you can figure out the ratio by just having your differential. This is a third member style, so this is going to be like a Ford 9-inch. Most Toyotas, independent rear suspension is going to be similar, except you're going to have like a whole case, but it's the same principle. So a few ways you can do it is you can either count your outside gears, like this one says 61, and your inside gears, and divide your bigger number, which is your your ring, by your pinion, and that will give you a number. For instance, this one is 373. So you'll get a 3.73, and that's your rear end. Or what you can do is on your diff, you can mark out a spot on here and here and turn this until the number of times till this comes back to where you started from, where your mark is. And the rotations that this turns is going to equivalent to the same of the number that you divided by just now. So this one you can do in car if you have a limited slip or like a posi, because both wheels will have to turn and you'll have to just mark it on the wheel. Otherwise, yeah, you'll just have to count the gearing and divide the bigger number by the smaller number. So this is all cleaned up now. I'm just gonna spray it one last time with brake clean, and then I'm gonna goop it up and put it in. So let's get at it. I like to just take the RTV or whatever silicone I'm using and just spread it around with my finger. It just makes it gets thinner and you use less and it makes a better bond. So I don't know. I've always done it this way and I've never had stuff leak. So not in this case. So yeah. So this is where the tricky part gets. So I measured and it's about 1/2 inch. I gotta cut off the actual axles because the actual axles themselves, these things, were 1/4 inch shorter than what I had thought. So they weren't going into the diff all the way. So I have to cut them out, cut them even less short than I originally would have had to cut them. So as you can see, so here's the line kind of right here. And now I just have to cut that distance there off of it. So I'll go a bit more than that. So I'll probably end up cutting 5/8 off the end of the axle shaft, and then that will be good. So I'm gonna just kind of go with verniers right here. I'll measure that distance, and then I'll bring that to the axle shaft, and then I'm gonna chop. Zzz. I'm gonna chop that much off. It's pretty decent. And then that's about it. That's all cut off now. So I'm just gonna go with a die grinder just around there. So just realizing I'm not going to be able to put the axles in before I put the rear end back into the car because the brake mount is here. So it actually goes on here and bolts through here. So I won't be able to put it on. So I'm going to have to pull this out, but then at least I can size both sides and cut them.
And then here I'm just cutting the axle. I'm just using the tape as a straight line and just spinning it, cutting it as straight as I can. And then I'll grind it afterwards just to put a little bevel on it so it matches like original.
So that both axles are cut, I'm going to put this thing back in, I guess. So that's kind of the next step. I got to remember, make sure I put the brake brackets on before I put the axles back in. But yeah, so I'll just put this back on the jack, lift it up, kind of connect my links, and do the exact opposite as what I did before. Oh. Hopefully you see me struggling there. I had to end up bench pressing the diff up, and yeah. I don't know if you've seen, but hopefully you did.
That part really sucked, putting that rear end in. It did not balance on the jack at all, and I had to bench press it in, and trying to put the bolt in the link as the link just keeps on spinning and moving, and the heim joint just keeps on. Yeah, it was quite tough. It took me an honest 40 minutes, probably like half an hour, 40 minutes after screwing around, going back and forth, but I got it. It was just, I was very tired afterwards. You can see the steam coming from my breath as I was breathing under there. And here I'm just putting the back end back together, just little snippet clips of doing it. So here you go.
So got the rear end all narrowed, got it back installed, got everything in place. So see, it's all good to go. I gotta put my drive shaft in and a couple other things, but I wanna see, I haven't even seen how narrow it is yet. So I'm gonna put it on the tripod and let's see. Let's see if 3/4 of an inch is enough. Oof. Looks better. It was really bad before. Let's see how. Ooh. Still needs a little bit, but honestly, like, the majority of the tire now is beneath that. I can make that work, I think. If I fold this in a bit, it kind of brings the top out. And I think that'll be good. It sucks that I can't use the old holes that I had done. Yeah, so if I put that there, get a little bit of that. That should be good. I'm excited. That's very nice. Here, one sec. Yeah, so when they're vertical like that, it gives it a bit more. So I'll have to play around with mounting them, but I think we're on to somewhere. We're good. There we go. So I know it doesn't look like much, but it wasn't much. It's 1.5 inches on both sides. Or I guess 1.25 inches overall, because I got just over 5/8 of an inch from each side. So, like, I believe that this tread here used to be in line with here. So that's a pretty good reference of what we have. So I'm really excited. That's going to be good. I can live with that. It was a lot of work for very little, but it's enough to make it work. So I'm gonna get these fender flares mounted on the next video and get the front ones, drill a bunch of riv nuts, kind of situate the rest of the car. I tightened up all the links and everything, and I think we're pretty much ready to go. I gotta put the engine bay back together. So the next one will be fiddling all that stuff and maybe a test drive. So yeah, I think that's it. That's it. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Hope you guys are enjoying it. We're almost done this thing. So once we're done this thing, we'll be going to the next project. I'm building a Roadster, a Model A Roadster. So 1928, 1929. So here's a little sneak peek of what's in store for the next. It's gonna be pretty traditional. It's something that I've never really done before. We've always been the type of people to make it work, where now I'm trying to find stock parts from the 20s and it's very hard. So it's all new. So once the Corolla's done, then I'm gonna be working on that. That'll be a couple month kind of thing. And then at the end of the month, so in a couple weeks from now, I'm gonna be picking up the next major big project that I'm gonna do, like everything that I've learned in the past 10 years into this thing. So I'm really, really excited. I can't stop talking to my friends about it. I'm gonna post it on Patreon. Well, I would have posted it on Patreon already here if you guys want to join for free and support. And yeah, until next time, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.